welcome to the August segment of the Blue Seat. We have some great guests joining us today. So more than just one in the Blue Seat today. We're spoiling you with a new guest joining us from our partners at Florida Blue. We want to welcome Laura Johnson joining us today. Welcome, Laura, to the Blue Seat, and thank you again for your support.
Thank you. Very happy to be here. Very grateful for the opportunity.
Wonderful. So tell us about what's going on with the Tallahassee Florida Blue Center. What's the latest there?
Well, the Florida Blue Center, Florida Blue in general, is working very hard to maintain safety for our employees and our neighbors and communities. So, like many businesses around town, they are still closed to the public. But you met Ashley, I think, in the last segment. Talked with her a little bit over the weekend, and she reassured me that their staff is still working full time. They're working virtually, so they're taking phone calls and assisting members when they call. Folks are having kind of a greater need right now and not really knowing where to turn. So, if your financial situation has changed, if you're still looking for insurance, maybe you lost your job, not sure if you qualify for subsidies and things like that, our sales staff is still available. We have our advocates available. So if you've got claims questions, you feel like I had some COVID services done, they should have been covered at 100%, what's going on there? The advocates can help with that. We have a new position in the past year or so with the Florida Blue Centers that is a community advocate. So Lynette over at the center can even help people who don't have Florida Blue insurance. If you're trying to figure out how to get things covered, if you don't qualify for insurance or don't have the funds right now, and are looking for those community resources, that's something she can really help with as well. So lots is available. We encourage people to go ahead and call them. The local number, that 558-3061 that you would call, if you dial that number, don't push any buttons. So when you dial in, it'll ask you if you want to press this to talk to this person. Just don't press any buttons, and it'll route you to our local team, and they would love to speak with you.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love how you've been able to pivot as a company to quickly be able to still serve people's needs. Can you tell us about maybe some of the upcoming grant opportunities? I got wind that you've got a new grant opportunity that has opened up to the community.
We do. We actually have some that have already been dispersed. We had one big COVID grant that came out last month, I think, through United Way Big Bend. They were kind of the clearinghouse to disperse all that for us. And that was $100,000 that got put into the community specifically to address the COVID situation. We have another one that will be coming through soon, so be on the lookout for that money coming out. We just closed a grant to address mental health issues, and we had several local nonprofits apply for that, which is awesome. We want to see tons of grants coming through from the Tallahassee Big Bend area. So keep a check on our website, look at what's available out there. The one that's open right now is for food security. I think there are several grants in the works from local partners, but we'd love to see any and everybody that's available to apply for them. We want the money coming into our community whenever possible. And then the third one of those big grants that will be coming out later in the year, I think around November, is for health equity. And I know that with the nonprofit sector and the groups that we work with, there's so much to be done there. I'd like to see, again, a whole lot of applicants come through for that one as well.
Oh, fantastic, Laura. And again, we just want to thank Florida Blue, again, not only for support of the Blue Seat, but everything that you're doing in the community. It just means so much to have that corporate impact and partnership with the nonprofit sector. Laura, again, thank you so much for your time and joining us today. We are looking forward to many, many segments to come. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Felina. I'm looking forward to your program.
Wonderful. So we are going to pivot and transition to our special guest for this segment of the Blue Seat. And again, our subject matter is when to hire, fire, and coach up. A very important discussion, may be difficult for some people to have and talk about, but we need to have that discussion. And I cannot think of a better person to put in the Blue Seat to help us talk about when to hire, fire, and coach up. No other than Jim McShane, the CEO of CareerSource Capital Region, is joining us this month. He is a 7-year veteran at the CareerSource Capital Region, former business owner, which I think is amazing because it's wonderful to have that balance and understanding of both worlds. And then he has a master's in public administration from Indiana State University and has served in the U.S. Army. So thank you so much, Jim, for your multiple service to the nonprofit sector and to our military. Welcome, Jim McShane.
Thank you, Felina. I appreciate to be here. It'll be great.
Yes, it will be. Thank you so much for your time. So let's start off a little bit more about CareerSource, and tell us a little bit more about the mission for those who are not familiar with what you do.
Good. So CareerSource is a workforce board that is funded by the U.S. Department of Labor. And in Florida, we also handle welfare transition and SNAP customers. Our goal is to get people employed as quickly as possible. We get about $5 million a year in federal funding. And with that federal funding, we help people by sending them to TCC and FAMU and FSU and Kaiser University and other places that have training that is in demand. So we cannot spend money unless that job or that kind of training is in demand by our employers. So we're very close to our employers. We listen to them on a regular basis. We have roundtables where our staff will speak with the owners and get a sense of what are their biggest challenges to hiring. And then we get back with our training providers and our economic development professionals and come up with a plan on how we're able to meet that for them.
Well, that's fantastic. Are there any services that you offer that maybe the community would be surprised that you offer?
Well, I think, we offer with our career navigators, we offer career advice. We have online, since this whole COVID crisis, we've added metrics learning, which is a complete learning module that can give you certifications, short-term certifications, so you can amp up your ability to find a new job. We're also engaged with the community on economic development. We also are working with our workforce partners in Georgia. So we're on a state line. We're pretty close to Georgia from here, and a lot of folks come over that state line going both directions really for a job. So we have the Florida-Georgia Workforce Alliance, which is something that is now in its fifth year. And the idea is that we can add more talent that the employers are looking for by using some of our partnering workforce areas to see where that talent lies.
That is amazing. And how many staff do you currently have on your team?
So board staff, these are staff like myself that report to our board of directors. We have 23 board members. I have a staff of about 18. And then Dan McGrew heads our service provider, which is Dynamic Workforce Solutions. They're under contract from our board in order to provide those services at our 3 one-stops, our 3 career centers. And Dan has about 45 individuals. So all in all, we've got about 55, 60 people that work for us in CareerSource Capital Region.
Wow, what a great team. That's fantastic. Yeah, what a great team. And I've had a chance to work with Dan. He's awesome. And you talk about energy there, Jim.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of high energy in our group. I have to say that. I've been what we have. So.
Yes. So I know that our viewers are going to be asking, and sure enough, we're going to be featuring the segment a couple of weeks after this interview has been recorded. But I am curious because the top conversation or question is, what's the latest unemployment rate? So what's the latest figures as of today's segment?
So our figures in our area, Leon County is around 16,000 unemployed, and both Wakulla and Gadsden County are close to around 1,800 each county. So total of around 19,000 people unemployed in our region, and the figure varies from month to month, basically. But we're seeing a spike in our welfare transition applicants right now. We went from about 150 to now 330. As of last week, our SNAP participants, we went from around 300 or so to 3,600. So those are people that are food stamp eligible, tend to be have no children. The ones that have children go through welfare department. The ones that have no children come to us. And the goal is to get them employed. But a majority of the folks on food stamps are when they come to us as able-bodied, they say able-bodied, no kids. The issue is that many of them have other kinds of disabilities, other kinds of barriers to employment. So we see about 8 or 10% of that group can actually get a job and maintain and hold down a job.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing. I know I'm a little off of the subject matter, but again, since I've got you in the blue seat, I want to take advantage of asking you these wonderful questions as they're so relative to the times that we're experiencing right now. You know, and of course, employment is a big concern. It impacts the entire nonprofit sector in so many ways. So thanks for addressing that. I mean, in the midst of a pandemic, I'm really curious, Jim, is how has this pandemic impacted your operations? I mean, I'm hearing the numbers are up and double and a lot of things.
Yeah,
so how's that impacting you?
To a point, it's impacted us at the moment, mostly in welfare transition and SNAP. Our Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, which are adults and youth and dislocated workers, which anybody that lost a job during the pandemic is a dislocated worker. We've not gotten any real additional federal help at this point, which is seriously concerning to be with the numbers that we're looking at. Number one. Number two is we've had to go to appointment only and limited number of people in our offices in order to protect our staff. We've already had 2 incidents of staff getting COVID-19, so that is something that we're very concerned about. We make sure that the PPE is there. We paid for all of that. We put up the plastic screens. We've done everything we can to keep our staff safe. But what we really exciting part of this is the fact that we've discovered that we can put our money into virtual platforms like this, and we can still have one-on-one counseling with our customers. We can still do all the meetings with our employers, and we're even starting virtual hiring fairs that will start in the next month that we paid for a platform for that. So we are offering probably 5 times the amount of services that we used to be able to offer, and we need to because we're down 14 people from 2 years ago because of funding cuts, and so our capacity is reduced. So we have to increase the capacity on the technology side, and I'm excited about some of the new offerings that we have.
Well, that's wonderful. It's great, again, how you've been able to pivot quickly to the change. And I think like most nonprofit organizations, capacity is like that's such a big challenge.
It is a challenge.
It's such a big challenge. And one of those areas that is probably the least in terms of funding opportunities that are out there to fund capacity. But I'm really curious though, Jim, from an executive director and CEO perspective, like how do those numbers that you mentioned earlier impact hiring? When you're looking at 19,000 people within our region being unemployed from an ED or a CEO perspective, how does that impact hiring?
Well, it is impacting hiring, although I would have to say we're posting about 200 jobs to 250 jobs a day in this area. So the jobs are there. Right now, what we're seeing is a lot of the fast food restaurants are coming back and wanting to hire additional people. What we are seeing too, though, is because of the $600 a week, because of the subsidies they're getting through unemployment, even though that has been a system that's been very uneven and problematic, to say the least. There isn't a rush for people to look for new jobs and new employment. And so it's concerning to me because once these waivers come off, we're going to have a whole lot of unemployed people that'll be looking for a job all at one time. And of course, businesses don't hire all at one time. That's number one. Number two is we're going to have a whole lot of people that are going to be out of homes or apartments. That's probably the most serious thing to me because that really hinders your capability of being employed. if you do not have a home, a place where you can go back to after work, if you're homeless, this becomes a real problem. And we're talking thousands of people that as soon as that waiver comes off, which came off already, I believe, it's I'm part of the group with the Big Bend Coalition, Big Bend Early Learning, and I'm also on the COC. And the COC is really concerned about what's going to happen there. And the Big Bend Early Learning is concerned about how do we get the child care back up so that people can go back to work. So these are all, it's an integrated system that we have here, and it's not only going to work when everybody's working together.
Right. And so have you had any discussions, or have you heard of, since everybody definitely needs to collaborate and work with one another, have you heard of any coalitions or alliances that have been formed regarding like the business community and the nonprofit sector? I mean, with all of those systems talking at one time?
I wish I did. I know that as my federal partners like Capital Area Community Action and Early Learning Coalition and the COC, all of those, we all do work together, and we are all, leveraging what we do have to help each other out. So that is working in the nonprofit side. It's still a challenge in the business side. The chamber has stepped up. All three chambers, frankly, are doing what they can do at this point, and we're certainly connected with them. And they bring that business person to the table. But the business community as a whole, they could do a lot more from my standpoint. As a former business owner, I was very engaged in the community for all 22 years I was in that business. And, community action is really community collaboration and a constant dialogue with what we're trying to all do together. And the more we coordinate that, the better results we're going to have. That's how I look at it.
I couldn't agree with you more. I guess my biggest concern is, does it have to get worse for it to get better? And, I would hope that it would not have to get worse before we actually take some action to improve the situation. NE is located downtown Tallahassee, and most recently we've opened up our offices, very limited, appointment only. Appointment only, I mean, we're just very cautious about that as well too, for the safety of my team and those who come to visit us.
Yep.
But driving to work in downtown Tallahassee is a whole different landscape now. And I have noticed, instead of us just having our one gentleman who was a resident homeless gentleman downtown on College and Monroe, now the benches that are along Monroe and College and downtown are starting to become or getting more residents that are homeless. And it is a very sad sight to see.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's what I say. And when you look at who's been laid off, it's in the hotel industry, in the restaurant industry. I would say a majority of those folks are single women with kids. That's the part that I'm most afraid of seeing in September and October out on the streets. And I would hope that the business community and certainly the landlords work with whatever they can do to keep those people in place, because if they think that after they boot them out that they're going to find people that are going to rent, I don't think so. It's going to be a long slog before we get through all of this. And, even though everything in the media right now is all about we're going to get a virus protection of some sort, realistically, that's not going to be for another year, if not two. Because yes, they might get it going and they might have 1 billion of them, but there's 700 billion people in this world and they're all going to want it. So it's not feasible that we're going to get that much. So, our key is stay safe, make sure my staff, and we're doing the same thing, appointment only. We can carry up to about 84 people a week. That's about our maximum. And so that's the other thing we're worried about is what happens when all these people no longer have that $600. Are they all going to come rushing to us at one time? I don't know. We haven't
Right.
lived through this before. This is going to be new for everybody, I would say.
For everyone.
Yeah.
But you definitely know that you will need to staff up to be able to fulfill all of those needs. And I'm really just surprised and heartbroken that the federal funding for CareerSource is not coming as quickly as it might be for like your food banks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the House has passed a bill of $15 billion that includes us and the community colleges and our youth programs throughout the United States that would start to give us the kind of leverage and the ability to hire additional people to help do more work and help more people. But that's only passed in the House, and it's gone nowhere in the Senate except for on somebody's desk. So, this is a problem. And if there isn't more money coming from the federal government, we worry very much. My staff worries not only for their personal safety because people get angry and upset and you can't blame them, but after all of this, then you're not even going to be able to help the majority of people you want to help. It's a scary time.
Yes, it is. And, the interesting thing as leaders in the nonprofit sector, we can foresee that.
Mm-hmm.
We can see down the pipeline. I think some of our, political leaders are disconnected and really have a difficult time wrapping their head around the severity of the situation. I do want to ask you, in terms of this atmosphere right now, if you are a candidate looking for employment, can you speak to maybe some of those industries that are hiring? And just speak to some of those that are hiring right now. Just curious.
So manufacturing, we have a lot of folks looking for people in that. Engineering, a lot of demand there. I look at that list every day as it comes out, and my staff is doing a yeoman's job of just collecting everything because we, of course, want businesses to go to Employ Florida. That's our federal job board. But at the same time, we get maybe 15 to 20% of businesses that'll do that. The rest of them are on Indeed and Monster and all the other job boards that are out there. So we're looking at all the job boards to see if we can make sure that our staff is prepared with, here are the jobs that are available. Somebody comes in front of you with those skills, you can get them placed right away. I mean, my goal in the next 6 to 8 months, and I had this conversation with TCC, and we're going to have to go into short-term training. Lively's done that, and TCC has that. Our goal is going to be get somebody in, find out what their skills are, where the job demand is there a way to transfer those skills and add maybe 1 6-week certification or course to their resume, and then that gets them into that job. That's what we're going to be doing mostly over the next year, I would say.
That's wonderful. That's really a smart move to pivot, because those requirements for that college bachelor degree, within these times is just no way. You can't get that engineering degree.
No, in that short of a time.
And fill that position.
Yeah, and we can't pay for it either. I mean, we don't have enough money for those kind of. We usually do short term or the last semester or last 2 semesters because, again, we're obligated to spend taxpayer money in a very smart way, and so we don't take a lot of risk with that money because we're here to make sure that money goes as far as it can go.
Well, let's switch a little bit, and again, touchy subject in terms of firing, because that is part of our theme and our subject matter. So when do you know it's time to part ways with an employee?
So my experience, I did all the hiring for a family business, office supply, furniture, and copiers for 22 years. And I found that the best way that it works for me is that when we have somebody that's not performing, first thing is you got to let them know that they're not performing. You have to communicate with them. You have to do it in a nice way because you want to keep people. You don't want a lot of turnover. But then what I typically would do is that if we weren't seeing the improvement, I would give them a 30-day plan. This is the plan that I want you to follow. See if you can follow this plan. And if you do, we'll talk at the end of the 30 days and see if there's any other improvements we need to make. I found that usually if they really did not want to work there or they really didn't intend to improve, in 2 weeks I had a 2-week notice. So I think it works fairly well. You got to be upfront with people, but at the same time, it's like so hard for a manager to fire somebody because you get to know them. They get to be part of the family of that business. But as a business owner, I also realized that that business was supporting 55 families. That's mom and kids and everything else. And that I had to put their best interests first when I'm dealing with somebody that was either disruptive or starting to not perform, which meant my other people had to cover what that person wasn't doing. So it wasn't that hard to determine in my head, this is the best solution, is to sit down with them, give them a chance, but at the end of that chance, if they don't take it, they know that they're gone.
Thank you for sharing that, and also giving, what you need to do before you actually have that conversation to let someone go as well too.
Okay.
So I heard about this one statement. It's slow to hire, quick to fire. Jim, have you heard that before? Slow to hire, quick to fire?
I would say most businesses are slow to hire. When we work with businesses, sometimes it can take them 6 to 8 weeks to make a decision on somebody. What I think the advantage of what's going to happen in the next year or so is there are going to be a whole lot of qualified people that no longer have the job they had that are going to be out there, and businesses that are ready to hire right now are going to have a good choice of some really top-notch folks. And I think that's going to be the advantage. But back in my day, they had a guy that go in, his name was they called him Chainsaw, whatever. And the reason why is because he would go in and fire everybody and basically take all the money of the business and walk away and close it. That never works. And so, you want to be slow to fire. You want to be fast to hire because if you don't make that offer, 2 days later, that person can be gone. And we've seen that over and over again with many of our companies that have, well, we got to think about it for a while. Well, that person is so qualified, they're going to find a job somewhere else. And qualified people will find jobs. There's not going to be a problem for that. But a lot of qualified people, including myself and my history, will take less money if I have to, just so that I can stay employed. And maybe it isn't quite the thing I wanted to get into. But hey, when I got into this, it was like, wow, this is a whole different world than working with an office supply store. But I really embraced it, and I tried to learn as much as I could about it, and I became, frankly, good at what I'm doing here. So, and I enjoy my staff. I've got great staff. They are top notch, and you get that by showing the kind of experience and sharing that experience with your staff, but also living it every day. I'm a manager by walking around, so this COVID thing is really problematic for me. But I do that because I want my staff to feel like, I'm always there. And if you have an issue or something comes up, they can always come in. My door is always open for them. And we need to discuss things when there are problems. We consult them together.
And I'm glad that you mentioned earlier, Jim, about just the atmosphere right now with obviously the job market. So if it's such a great pool of people, qualified people for jobs, now employers have the opportunity to pick from a multitude that they may not ordinarily have had to pick from just 4 months ago, because we were doing too well with unemployment, right? So if they've got this great pool to choose from now, how is that impacting salaries? I know you said that you might be willing to work for less, but are employers looking at lowering how much that annual salary is because they have so many people to choose from?
Well, let's hope not, because that is an issue in this area. That's one thing I will say that I really feel it's just not right when we have the kind of costs for an apartment and for mortgages and that, and the type of average wage that we have for people in our region. Now I know that the labor market shows that we have an average wage of about 48,000, but at what we see on a daily basis are mostly people that are earning 28, 24. I mean, how do you keep a family of 3 and 4 people fed on that kind of money and in a house or an apartment? It is a problem. It's a structural problem that I think COVID-19's been something that has exposed all the functional problems of our system throughout the whole country, that we do have some major issues we have to address. It is racism. It is structural poverty. It is paying people less than what they're really worth. And it's got to stop. We're going to have to find a better solution than what we're doing now, because it's going to have some major repercussions in the long run.
Yes. Well, thank you for being transparent about that. I'm going to switch a little bit over to succession planning, which is something that the nonprofit sector is not known to doing very well, and known for doing very well. And that, again, is coaching up to have leaders step into those positions. And so what you end up seeing in the sector is vacancies at a CEO or executive director level, and they have to go outside of the organization to fill that role. Now, granted, some of it's simply because the organization may be small, and so there's very limited for middle management. But can you speak to how nonprofits should better plan for succession planning and coaching up?
So I think succession planning is the job of the board of directors, and mine required that. I totally agree with them. Now, my action plan was a little different than most because I have been training really all of my senior staff as I'm going along, knowing that 1 or 2 of them, and the case that I've had recently, I would know that 2 of them could really fit into my position. It is one of the issues with our system is that there's probably an opening in the workforce ED system throughout the whole United States. There's 550 of us. It's only probably once in, maybe 2 or 3 months, and it's all over the country. You'd have to want to relocate, etc. And it typically goes to somebody local anyway. They usually do not bring somebody in, which was unusual here. They brought me in from Illinois and Indiana, which is where I was before. And so there is limitations in that. But in the COO position, there's some opportunity there. I know with my staff, I really encourage them to be learners and do the best they can. Do something for yourself every year to improve your skills. We have LinkedIn Learning that we provide to our staff. I've loved it because I'm a learner anyway. That's my #1 skill. So I do take courses online all the time. I'm a systems thinker, and I've been part of MIT's system for a long, long time, for probably 30 years. And part of that is because I see how systems work together and don't work together. And I'm always looking for opportunities and trying to think ahead on how we can do some things to better together in leveraging things. So I do encourage that. My staff is totally capable of taking over the whole operation. If I drop dead tomorrow, I can tell you the board has no problem with what's going to be there. They may have to go outside to find somebody that's experienced as a COO in one of the other career sources around the state or up in Georgia. But again, it's so specific to understanding the law, understanding, our law is 380 pages for our part out of a 1,600-page law that was passed in 2014. You have to understand it. You have to know it. You have to understand your obligation and responsibility. And it's serious because back in Indiana, when I was in charge of the one in Gary, Indiana, I got to sit in front of a judge for 3 hours because one of my sub-grantees misspent federal funds, and him and 3 of his staff went to jail. So that is really uncomfortable. And I learned a lot at that point because I was only in the job like 3 months when this came in. It was the whole welfare to work thing. And we had $3 million, and I had to find 1.9 million in match in an area where we find that. But I found that in one elected official's position in that area, what he was doing fit the match requirements, and got an MOU between him and me, and was able to draw down that $3.2 million for the citizens of my county, which was Lake County, Indiana. So, you can do it, but then you've got to be mindful of the fact that this is federal money. This can put you in jail. You've got to have a good CFO. I have one of the best CFOs, I can tell you that. And that was one of my first things I said to the board when they were recruiting is, I need to have total confidence in this CFO because he keeps me out of jail, literally, in doing a good job and managing the dollars that we get in a proper way. So he's passed 18 years with no findings in his audits. That's remarkable. That is totally remarkable, I got to tell you. So
That's amazing.
Gives the COO a lot of faith that, I've got a good team. They're doing a great job. And even though I can lose a team member or so, I'm losing one shortly, but she's moving up to another position that will, number one, probably pay her more. Number two, it'll broaden her knowledge of being a good manager. And she's helping an agency that I support 100%, and I'm on the board.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I do love that. I mean, crossover type of promotions, I think in Tallahassee definitely happens a lot more, crossing from one organization to another, to be able to advance in your role. Definitely, I think is prevalent in Tallahassee. Can you speak, Jim, to some of those smaller nonprofits that they have a small local grassroots board? They have a limited staff, maybe 4 or 5. But some of those smaller nonprofits that, again, should their executive director transition out, retire, whatever the case may be, what suggestions or tips do you have for them in terms of maybe succession planning? And even if it is their board, but, being able to work with that smaller nonprofit organization.
Yeah, I'm familiar with them because when I was in Indiana, in between jobs, I worked for a company called Grants Incorporated, and I wrote grants for small nonprofits and also for municipalities. And I know it really does get down to board leadership. If the board is fully engaged, they're going to be not only assisting that CEO, but they're going to be advocating for them and looking into who's the next best person if this person leaves. Because that is something that it is a board. I was trained with a board staff program called that looked at nonprofit boards, and that the board hires the executive director. Executive director does all the work as far as hiring who they want and who they have on their team, and the board does not get engaged with that. And so I am all for that separation. If the board is not happy with the ED, the board needs to get somebody else to do it. And I can tell you that is really hard for boards to do. I've been in a position where Foundress was starting to interfere with the growth of this nonprofit that I was the chair of, because it had grown past what she had in her head as what was going to be what this group looked like. It was a choir. And I had to sit down with her and let her know that she was becoming an obstacle to our growth and that we needed her to back off. And I had to do it in a nice way as the board chair, that, you're going to have to relinquish this to the choir director. She's doing an excellent job. She needs to be the one making these decisions. She can't have you interfering with that. And I had to do that. That was a tough thing to sit down with somebody who had started it 20 years before and watched it grow. But, again, it still gets down to board leadership is so key in whether whether it's small or large, it does not matter. If you've got a good board, your board is going to be looking for possible leadership Tallahassee people. I mean, to me, that's where you can find potential board members. I'm recruiting from that group. And you can find potential new leaders out of that. But if it's, like you say, if it's real small, there isn't, you don't have a middle manager, you got the ED and you got maybe an administrative person and a couple of other folks that are doing the day-to-day work, it's tough. And to me, what I usually suggested on the grant side is tie your nonprofit together with somebody that's in a similar or maybe complementary kind of service, and start to work together to see if you can leverage what both of you can provide, because many of us have the same customers. Many of us have veterans, we have unemployed, we have people that are homeless. We all have some of the same people. That's what Tim Center and I have. We meet every month. Why do we meet? Because we're looking for ways that community action and CareerSource can work together. Eventually, I'd like to see where we have a couple of folks, and he and I both agree, that are trained in both of our systems, so they know when to hand off somebody to their system and vice versa. And but that takes time. This has been an idea in our head for a while. We went after a special grant from DEO and did not get it, but we really think in the long run we're going to have to do more leveraging together, because I don't see the federal dollars, even though we might get a sudden raise in dollars for this whole COVID thing, it'll go away just like ARRA did after the last one. And so you can't depend on that. You're going to have to say, what's going to be the future of this system? And
Right.
We should be nonpartisan. I mean, I think every representative, senator wants to see more people get jobs, but they don't fund it to any degree. And we're down, like in our area, from 10 million in 2000 down to 5. So, and it keeps going down, like 2 or 3% every year, or maybe get a little bump for 1%. It's hard to operate that way, really is.
Sure. And collaboration, like you said, is critical to be able to serve the needs.
Yep.
If there's an increase in demand, we have to be able to work together as a sector to be
Yep.
able to help that need. So I love the relationship that you and Tim have formed with that collaboration, and actually use the both of you, as an example of what other nonprofits could do. So we are coming to the end of our interview, but I have a really fun last question for you.
Oh, good. I'm excited.
And I want to know, what was your very first job, Jim?
Mine was at up the street at a pharmacy, and I did stocking. I was a stock boy.
What? So
I got to, you go into any kind of major group and you say, how many of you have worked in retail? And you will have 90% of those people raise their hands. We've all been in retail for the most part. That's how most of us got started. It may not be true today, but it certainly was in the days past. And so, yep, I am familiar, and I'm familiar with all that stuff of what they use for babies, because I had to price it all and put it on the shelf. And oh yeah, my first job.
Bigger memories. But you're right, retail, and we have that in common. That was my first job as well. I actually, back in the 80s, used to do mannequin modeling.
Oh,
so
cool.
80s. Mannequin modeling at one of our department stores. And who would even know that you say department stores, and actually some of our young folks coming in, they're like, what's a department store?
Right. Those
But,
days are going.
right. And so, yes, doing that. And that's so cool. I mean, I think what you learn in that environment is invaluable. But yes, thank you for sharing that. And then one last one for you, Jim, is what was the worst job you ever had?
In the steel mill, summer job in between, summer between courses at Quincy College in Quincy, Illinois. And I had to work in the cold mill, which actually was lucky, because even though it was really bad and stinky and everything else, I cleaned restrooms in the mill every shift. Actually, they didn't like me because you had to be union, so I was union, that's fine. But I could go around 3 times in a shift, and they told me to slow down and don't do that so quickly. So it was, you come home, and if you had to stay over for a second shift, it was great money. I earned $1,000 a month. Back then, that was big money in '69. But I'd come back home, and your clothes would just reek from all the smell of the steel and the oil and everything else. And the worst one was getting down underneath where they had those big coils come across on a line. They spray them with oil, and then you have to go down there with what basically is kitty litter, and you have to throw it on all that oil and scrape it up and put it into big 55-gallon hopper coppers and send them away. And so that was smelly, awful. And I said, boy, I know why I want to stay in college.
Sounds like a great motivating job to transition you out.
Yep, definitely. Oh,
that's funny. Well, Jim, it has been a pleasure getting to know you, and thank you so much for your transparency and your leadership. Annie is very grateful for CareerSource being a member, and we're so glad that we're able to help your staff wherever possible. And I love that you said that you encourage them to do trainings and educate themselves so they can grow up.
Yep.
And be built up within the organization. So we thank you so much for your support and your time.
Thank you, and I appreciate it too. Thank you, Felina.
And take care.
A great challenge still lies before us, Florida. And as we try to understand this new normal, we must remember, things aren't normal. Not yet. So let's all keep doing our part to stay healthy until it is. We are One Florida. And Florida Blue remains committed to the one place we've ever called home.